Hello again, whiskey friends. Thanks for joining, everybody. Recently, Bourbon Real Talk did a video, Are Whiskey Tubers Full of Crap? And I was fascinated by the comments, both in the Facebook group and on the video itself. There were a lot of things I disagreed with, there were a lot of things I agreed with. And I wanted to lend a perspective on some of these things that are actually divisive amongst the whiskey community that I am 100% guilty of. But I do think it is an important part of our hobby and our shared experience in how we communicate to each other, either at tastings, at bars, on YouTube, in comment sections. So let's break down a few of these points and have a discussion in these comments as well. So thank you for joining, whiskey friends. Let's kick off the show. There are three main points that came up either in the video itself or within the comments, but I think they're worth dissecting. One was that whiskey tubers are essentially paid off and all of the reviews are crap because of that. Another one that continually came up was the idea of tasting notes and how they are completely fabricated and fake. And then the last point was trying to find trustworthy voices in this space. So I won't highlight any names, but I'll highlight some of the comments here. I'll read them out loud. One of the comments, short answer is yes. Most are compromised, if not by outright payment, then by payment in product, samples, or special privileges. Even the few that aren't will naturally, and by no fault of their own, have a taste preference. And that's okay. We can call that different tastes. So think about that first part of that comment there. And it is about the reception of samples or special privileges. Now, I do find it awkward personally to do reviews on samples. Being sent a sample is a marketing function for somebody. And they send you the sample to put the review up, to show it on your channel, and to get the word out. And if they send me a bottle that I don't like, and then I put out a negative review, that most likely means they're not going to send me a bottle again, isn't it? So there's definitely conflicting interest there. And I have always felt it. I probably haven't been as aggressive with some of the PR folks as I could be to get these samples in. And it's because I don't want that conflict of interest to even enter my mind. And one of the things that I do to try to combat this is even when we do top 5 lists, top 10 lists, one of the things that must be in there is that I purchased the bottle with my own money. So if a brand were to give me a bottle that actually landed in my top 10, for it to officially count, I actually have to go out in the wild, pay my own money on it, like I would expect anyone else to, and then I can talk about it in those lists. It's a small point, but it's an important one. And the special privileges part, I mean, that does play into it. We are getting into barrel picks more and more as part of this channel, and we are meeting these people that make the whiskey, that market the whiskey, setting up genuine relationships. And if they gave me a bottle that I ended up not liking, I mean, I'd probably have to handle that feedback more privately than publicly and not feel the pressure about publishing something. But if I go out there and I just start bashing something that they gave me after setting up that relationship, that is somewhat of a betrayal. That's built into this equation, this back and forth that we're having. Now, as we've gotten into this over the years, and we have special guests on nearly every other week, I mean, we get to feel out the other whiskey channels, the other reviewers, either during the show itself or backstage after we've gone through some blind flight, and then we're backstage and who knows what we're talking about. But we really don't come across compromised people. Everybody in this community is simply whiskey fans that are trying to get the word out. Yes, maybe part of building a brand is part of that too. But I mean, look at us here. Like, we aren't a big channel. Why do we do this then? Because frankly, I was doing it anyway. I was over there on the Distiller app or, watching people on Reddit, like typing up their notes and sharing with the community and doing it in these forms where either somebody else is getting all your data or it's not going anywhere. I mean, if I'm going to sit there and spend the time to do it anyway, why not just own it and do it myself, no matter what the terms are, no matter what the growth is. As long as it's fun to continue to explore new whiskeys, keep going out there and do this. But there is somewhat a nature of the game when you do come the marketing arm for some of these companies. How truthful can you always be? Another way to combat that, though, is blind flights. If you watch our live show, there are numerous times where we are doing blind flights and we are not digging a pour and we're like throwing it under the bus. And then we do the reveal, and it's like, "Oh, no. Who did we just throw under the bus?" Like, in your mind, you're just like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." But at the same time, what can you do? If their whiskey doesn't, do well in a blind in that circumstance, it could be something that I thoroughly enjoy all on its own, and it just didn't show up in that day, either due to its position, due to what I ate that day, or if your Durrell in Blend Again, the sample before you was 160 proof and just wiped everybody out. But it definitely sets up those awkward situations, and man, do I feel it in my heart of hearts. But I think it's really easy, though. When you're looking at people on their social media accounts or how they present themselves or what they're reviewing, what their game is. And I see the same thing. I mean, not to be too specific here. I mean, there's a magazine that I receive all the time, and it's like, I look at it, and every single whiskey's scoring essentially a 90 to a 94, every single one in the whole thing, every single time. I mean, is that a review? Or is that just marketing? But we did sign up for this, even if we kind of stumbled into it inadvertently on being on that marketing arm part of things. The second topic that came up was all about tasting notes. And this is the one I said in the intro: guilty, 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 guilty. This is probably one of the things that also limits the growth of the channel. But when I talk about whiskeys, like, I'm just going to tell you what I'm smelling, what I'm tasting, where I'm tasting it, and try to just be as articulate as possible. And some people love that. Like, tasting notes for some people is almost its separate language. And the people that don't speak that language think those tasting notes are BS. But we play games all the time on this channel. We've done blind flights where we randomized the order for every participant and made them describe what they were tasting through their tasting notes in order to rearrange their flight to match everybody else's. And Dusty Dan is someone where, man, if Dusty and I are describing a whiskey, man, we have like 80% overlap. Like, our dictionary and the words that we like to use to describe things overlap so much that I think you could have Dusty do a blind flight, record his tasting notes, and then give me his tasting notes and give me the brands and the bottles. And I could probably rearrange those just off his words on what that whiskey was. So I'll give you a comment as the examples on these. People who claim to pull 50 notes, 50 flavors, and 50 finishes are full of crap. Okay, I don't pull out 50, but I'm probably at the extreme of things. The ones I think are full of it is where they taste blueberry pancakes or a cookie. I may not have the best taste buds, and I usually pick up oak, vanilla, fruit, or sweetness. I get peanuts from Bean, banana from Jack Daniels. Man, I've got a Still Austin down here still that tastes like blueberry pancakes or cupcakes. And Nancy's notes say the exact same thing. It tastes exactly how she described. There was another comment. It must have been in the YouTube channel, not in the Facebook. But somebody was like, vanilla is vanilla. If somebody says it's a vanilla cupcake or it's vanilla frosting, that's BS. Vanilla is vanilla. Man, there's a big difference between something having vanilla cake or tasting like angel food cake versus having like a sweet cream icing. Totally distinct flavors. But I do challenge people that have this thought of tasting notes to at least go out and like look at a bourbon flavor wheel. This one's on bourbonwhiskeyandrye.com. But what you see here are these 3 layers, and that's typically how these wheels are set up. And this is just people trying to articulate the flavors, all in different degrees. And some people are only able to stay at level 1. I'm tasting sweetness. I'm tasting fruit. I'm tasting wood. Some people only get to layer 2. Other people get to layer 3. Other people invent layer 4, layer 5, layer 6. Guilty, guilty, guilty again. But within that, there is a lesson. And I try to tell myself this all the time. Who is the audience on the other side of the camera? Because I tend to just be me. And I'm going to get deep and I'm going to get nerdy and I'm just going to say what I say and articulate what I articulate as I'm drinking a whiskey. But how I describe whiskey resonates with a small percentage of whiskey enthusiasts, and it does not resonate with a wider audience, especially those that might be new or trying to get into bourbon. I'm essentially speaking a language that they don't understand or maybe never want to understand. when I get too articulate with my tasting notes. Sometimes I might just be better off calling something something sweet or dry, fruity, not fruity, using these binary terms. More people would be able to relate to it. But then again, you got to pick your punch on who you're trying to relate to in the first place. And we seem to generally attract the enthusiasts amongst the enthusiasts, for better or for worse. But that is a choice that I am making, sometimes consciously, sometimes not. Sometimes I just get wrapped up in my own enthusiasm. But the way that I learned this dictionary in the first place, and I think it's the reason that I do it, is that there was a time between 2018 and 2019 when every time I bought a new whiskey, I would go onto YouTube, play it side by side while I drank with it, and see if I could pick up the thing that the other person on the other side of the screen was talking about. Sometimes it landed, sometimes it didn't. But there was a point in my whiskey journey where the lights came on and it began to land more and more. And while I may not have always agreed with their articulation of a tasting note, I might have understood the angle. Somebody's pear is another person's spicy apple. Some people's chocolate is really just their articulation of this darker oak presence. Or maybe it's got that sweetness wrapped up in it too. Some people use that generic term baking spices. Some people will be more specific on clove, cinnamon, nutmeg. But the more you understand it, the more you find the synonyms and the degrees of freedom from that word and what it could mean. And then you can talk about it at a little bit of a deeper level, even to the point that we could play those games that I talked about at the beginning of this segment, where we could all be blind with different orders of different whiskeys and slowly but surely come to a conclusion that my sample C is your sample A is his sample B. And you just do it through language. Are we really tasting those things? Well, sometimes yes. But really, it's just our mind trying to translate it into something that we can communicate. And then the third point, and they talked about this one quite a bit on the channel, but it was all about that credibility. People are leaving paper trails everywhere on their Facebook, on their Instagrams, on their YouTube channels. They're leaving it all over the internet. It doesn't take much to figure out if somebody is in this to build up their brand, make money, make this a career, or if they're doing it out of the passion for the hobby itself. And even some people that make it a career, you can still tell even with those parameters, whether they are passionate about it themselves or not. I mean, as Jason tries to continue to grow Drumkey, or the Junkies are growing Evernorth, you taste the passion in the blends that they put together. And then it gets really awkward when the whiskey tubers start reviewing blends and bourbons from the other whiskey tubers. But in my mind, the credibility angle gets exposed very, very quickly. All you got to do is look at what they're saying, look at what they're doing, and think about why they're doing it, which would then beg the question, why the heck are we doing this right now? Why am I talking to you right now? Which is really me talking to myself and looking into a camera. But from the start, starting this channel was always a byproduct of meeting new people like Kelsey and Darrell through the power of whiskey. By doing this channel, when we go to whiskey shares, when we go to meetups, we know hundreds of people. It's like going to high school reunions a couple different times a year. And again, when we talk about transparency or credibility, you can tell the people that are in this for the other people and for the community, and to get to know other people and to sit at a table and to talk to somebody about whiskey, to have a laugh, to share a bottle. You can see what somebody is made of pretty quickly in those circumstances, especially when they've had a few drinks. But if people have the perceptions out there that people doing whiskey reviews are full of crap, I would challenge that viewpoint quite a bit. Most of the people that are doing this purely out of passion. And the longer we can keep that passion going, the more we can keep this community tied together and continue to have some fun. So let me know what you think of this topic in the comments. What are some of the pet peeves that whiskey tubers do that drive you crazy? And just remember, while you can always find more whiskey, you can never have enough whiskey friends. So take care of those around you, and we will catch you on the next one. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for watching. Hello again, whiskey friends, everybody. A big shout out to our amazing Patreon community. If it wasn't for you, we couldn't continue to produce the content and barrel picks week after week. And for everybody else out there, be sure to hit that like and subscribe. It really helps the channel more than you know. And we'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye, everybody.